Hello, and welcome back to my Mother's Day postcard series where we create all sorts of watercolor flowers in baskets or containers as a way to celebrate the mothers in our lives that we love and adore, whether it's biological or friends or just people in our lives that like give off the vibes that we love to celebrate. Okay, so we're gonna do a basket today, and in that basket we're gonna do some daisies. I'm gonna go ahead and start with some warm yellowish brown to create my basket. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create like this big kind of rounded off basket on the bottom, kind of like this. And then I'm gonna have a bunch of like daisy type flowers sticking out the top. So basically what I'm doing is I'm filling this in with water and picking up some of the paint on the outside and moving it around on the inside. The brush I'm using today is a 1/4 dagger brush from Christy Rice. And then I'm going to try and give this basket some weave in just a few minutes. In the meantime, I do want to add a little bit more color in here to some of the edges and the bottom, just to give it some, texture, shadows and lights and all that good stuff. Okay, a little bit more. All right. And then we'll just let that dry. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make some really fun looking daisies to pop out of this basket, this weaved basket. So we're gonna just basically start with a yellow. Just gonna go bright yellow because why not? And make some circles. You can make as many or as few circles as you like. I'm gonna do some half circles here. And just go around and lay them where you want. You don't need to put them in any particular spot. I might have one tuck over here and have that come off the bottom. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to grab an old palette that has paint on it. And I am just going to add some water to it. So this is a dirty palette that I regularly use. I'm just gonna add some water to this space here. Just mix. I'm not the most technical painter, if you couldn't tell. And I'm gonna go ahead and just add that to the base of those little round guys. It will pick up some of that yellow, which is fine. I'm gonna just do it all the way around. You can see it's already picking some of that stuff up. I think this one I'm gonna give more of a full vibe around the edges. You'll notice that my flower strokes are pretty big because of the type of brush I'm using. But you can go smaller. I'm gonna go ahead and do just a little bit up here. So it's kind of like a taupey brown color. And you can see, again, I'm just going in super duper loose here with these daisies. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add some stems and some leaves. Again, I should probably shrink this brush down a little bit. Do what works for you. And then add leaves as it dries. So this is not super dry, but it's getting there. I think I'm gonna start to lean into adding some of that extra brown weave in here as we go. So basically I'm just gonna do like this patchwork here. So I'm just going to, it's going to be almost like stripes, or not stripes, bricks. I'm just going to go across like this. And then I'm going to do the opposite way, across like that. These nice big brush strokes. And then what I could do is once that dries, I could start to add a little bit more line work in there to give it more of the weave vibe. I also would like to do kind of a side bit where these are kind of like bubbling over a little bit. Do you know what I'm saying? So look, the outside of a basket is not a straight line, right? Kind of like that. These big bubbly weaves kind of hanging out there. All right, and then let's add some greenery inside. And since I'm using this, again, this big brush here, the leaves are gonna be nice and big. Just making brush strokes here, not being too gentle or precious. And then I'm gonna go in with another color green. And then I'm going in with my third color green. Kind of wild looking, right? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit of orange to those centers, and then I'm really gonna dry it and then come back in over this with pencil. And because some of this is still wet, you can see it's kind of blending and bleeding through. Okay, so let me go ahead and dry this up a little bit, and then we'll add some definition with some colored pencils and some Caran d'Ache pencils. Okay, I'm gonna start with the petals on these flowers because I do wanna bring them out sooner rather than later so I can start feeling like I've created something beautiful here. And this always makes me feel good when I'm doing these centers and bringing attention to them and their shadows. So a lot of it's very doodly, but I like to go to the outer edges of the petals and just define those petals a little bit more than maybe they were to begin with. I'm going to also hit the centers with this pencil as well. And what I hope you're seeing is I'm really just going after those outside petal tips. And then I'm going to come in next to those centers and bring the definition back to those as well. Okay, so now I'm going to come back to these centers and just create a little bit of line work. I do want to sharpen this once again to make sure it's super sharp, so I have a nice thin tip as I'm going in here. So just to show you the difference between the two. Okay. Just little lines, showing off some of those leaves, sometimes making the petals a little thinner. Sometimes it might be actually drawing another petal where it didn't initially get painted. I also like using, it's kind of like cross hatching, where I add a little bit of line over the top and then cross it where most of the shadows would be. It's just a cool doodle effect that I really like. All right, let's add a few more darkness bits to the tops of these leaves. Sometimes it's going to extend them. Sometimes it's just me adding line work to clarify where a leaf is above or behind, like even here. Sometimes I often add little extra leaves as well. Okay, so that feels pretty good. So you can see all of the little extra details is now bringing this to life. You can also add veins to some of these leaves just to give an impression of direction. And then in this part, I'm going to go in, I'm going to start with the brown, I think. And just add in this kind of weave, crisscross line work to these basket bits. Just to give it more of an authentic, plus it's the doodling is just fun, you know? And this part is super fun too. Just because it's that doodle stuff. And you don't have to think that much. Just be careful when you're using these stabilos. They are very soft, so sometimes you might want to go back in and sharpen it back up again, depending on how thick or thin you want those lines. Like that. And then you can see the effect that that has to give that really a basket look. And there you have it. There is our daisies in a basket, along with some of the other beauties we've created so far. We also have with us the peonies in a Delft style vase and our bouquet of flowers in a metal bucket. We've got one more in this series. I'll let it be a surprise, and I look forward to seeing you next time.